Time for another installment of Fast Break Bets. Erik, two of the best words in all of sports. Game 7. We've got one today, Sunday morning. I'm still excited, rocking my Lakers gear. Had a nice Lakers win the other night. So Lakers and Nuggets, they've moved on, Erik. We know they're going to play in the Western Conference Finals on Tuesday night, but we won't have another game until then because today the Eastern Conference, they need to get things set. How crazy is it that as we sit right now, the 8th seed, the Miami Heat, were the first team in the East to clinch their way into the Eastern Conference Finals after the 7th seeded Lakers were there also. So we've got the 7th seed on one side, the 8th seed on the other side. The first time ever one play-in team made it to the conference finals, and both two play-in teams did on each side. How are you feeling? Where are you sitting as we look at Game 7 Celtics-Sixers today?
Just speaks to the parity going on in the league. It's going to be interesting to see. Heat were quite vocal about resting players. Does Silver try to do something into that next year?
To kind of hit on your point, it's not as if it's surprising now because we haven't seen it before, but if we were going to see it, we knew that it was this type of a year. Right? Yeah. When we looked out west and we saw the parity in the West, the difference between being in the 4th spot and being in the 12th spot, some days was like 2 or 3 games. So there wasn't really like a hierarchy of teams, right? We didn't have this group of teams was that much better. I mean, the Lakers finished 1 game behind the Warriors and I think 2 games behind the Suns. Even though it felt like the Lakers didn't have that great of a year, they basically had the same year as teams that were much better than them. On the East, it felt a little bit different. It did feel like Milwaukee, Boston were sort of at the top tier, and now Boston has an opportunity today, Erik, to really save their season. They've played 2 playoff rounds now where if we were giving them a grade as a teacher, I would give them like a C-. Barely passing is what we've seen from the Celtics. They were barely able to get through Atlanta, and they got lucky the other night. They were down 4 points in the 4th quarter, and then Jason Tatum got hot. And like you said, Erik, I don't necessarily know if I'm willing to just believe that that was like a fix-it for Tatum. His body language throughout a lot of this series hasn't been good. He was getting D'd up by George Niang early on in that game. He was bumbling and dropping balls, and it wasn't even like he was just missing shots. He looked like a guy with the yips almost. I couldn't believe it. And now in this Game 7 with these 2 teams, the way they've been playing, the way Boston's been playing, with the history of Doc Rivers, James Harden, Joel Embiid, how they've not been good at sealing the deal, closing out games like this, I don't know who to trust here.
I don't trust anybody, to be honest with you.
Yeah. That's the Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? The DTA, right. Don't trust anybody.
You look at it, it's not like the shots that Tatum hit were great. They just happened to go in. Brown, in my eyes, isn't getting the ball enough. Smart's the only one that really doesn't look like the moment's too big for him on the Celtics roster. Brogdon, you look at his history when he was with the Bucks in these big games, hasn't shown up. Then you have Doc, then you have Harden's history in a Game 7, and Embiid's 0 for 2 in a Game 7. Then you factor in Harden. Scott Foster is officiating. Harden awful in Scott Foster officiated games. So the first one I did is I just went to James Harden under 25 and 20 and a half. Look, he's really struggling. He's only gone over this number twice in the playoffs, so that's where he exploded for those 40-point games. I don't see him doing that. And just look at his history of Game 7s, 17% beyond the arc, 35% from the floor. Most of his points in those Game 7s came from the free-throw line, and he's just not driving to the hoop right now because Embiid's down there. If Embiid wasn't playing, we'll probably see him try to get to the 10 a little bit more. But with Embiid in there, he's not driving as much. So my first play is Harden under the 20.5 points.
It's funny. The only thing that worries me about that is that Harden has had 2 sort of lackluster offensive games in a row after the big game. I almost wonder if just by the sheer dumb luck, he's due for an okay game again where he hits this number. But man, you don't trust him. And I think what you're hitting on is the same thing that I'm hitting on. Like we're gonna assume that there's just gonna be a few less points in this game overall, right? With the way that it's a game 7, there's an anxious energy out there. Dude, it's not like Boston's been good at home. We hit it. They've been 9-10 in their last 19 home games. Doc Rivers has not been great in these positions. I don't trust, and I don't love what I've seen from the Celtics. I don't love what I've seen from Missoula. I'm going to play this under, just like you, in the first half, and we're just going to hope that they come out, everyone's a little bit tight to start, miss a couple shots here and there, and then maybe you settle into the game. So both of us going under in that first half.
Plus, you look at it, the 76ers are the second slowest team in the playoffs. They average about 93 possessions per game. The Celtics were one of the fastest, but right now with the pace of the 76ers, they are playing at a slower pace, less possessions to score, obviously. Plus the game 7 jitters. I will take this bet every time in game 7s. And then if it goes over, I'll just look to take the second half under like we did in the Kings Warriors game. We lost that by a point. Then we played the second half under and it went under comfortably. So I like this a lot. Trends wise, you can look at a million trends that support both sides. It just, with how the Celtics play, it's just very hard for me to trust them. I'm not the biggest Jason Tatum believer. I know some people think he's, the 5th best player, top 3 player.
Dude, this has been a bad few weeks for him. This has been a bad few weeks for like where he stacks up overall, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I could, off the top of my head, I don't know how many people I could name that I would want more than him, but I don't know. I just don't trust the Celtics team. You just kind of look at the makeup of the team. They probably should have won a title right now, but him, Smart, and Brown do tend to win these game 7s historically. So
yeah,
I think the Celtics win the game, but I don't know if they cover.
Erik, the play that I have in this one, Robert Williams over 7.5 points. I think that was key for Boston in that last game. He needs to be out on the court a little bit more because they were getting crushed rebounding wise. And Robert Williams helps them in that department. He helps just give them a little bit of a paint presence and a bigger body to throw on Joel Embiid. So Robert Williams has played 12 playoff games. He's played 25 minutes or more in 3 of those games. And in those 3 games, Erik, 10 points, 10 points, and 13 points. For Williams, it's just a minutes thing. Like, he's never going to be a prolific scorer. He's not going to be the type of guy who scores 25 or 30 points. But if he's out there for 20, 25 minutes, he's going to get 5 or 6 rebounds that he just puts back up. He's going to get 1 or 2 lobs. That's what they like with him out there. It gives them a vertical threat that they don't have when Horford's out there. Right? They can throw, especially when Tatum or Brown drives the lane and takes a little bit of attention, that leaves a really wide open Robert Williams for a lob. So just a couple of those for Williams. I went over the 7.5 points.
I mean, the big adjustment they made was he started game 6.
Yep.
Obviously, these guys don't play until Wednesday, so we're going to look to see the starters' minutes be a little bit more. So maybe I'm trying to think of somebody, not really a rotational guy for either one of these, for one of these teams that you could kind of play like an under, because like in a game 7, these are the ones with the reserves that you want to look to play their under totals and props.
Yeah. And like we were high on Derek White in the first series, right? This doesn't feel like it's as much of a Derek White series. He only played 19 minutes in the last game. He might be the guy that you go a little bit under on, because we looked at the last series. They were smaller with Trey there. It just fit a little bit better. Now they need a little bit more size. He doesn't match up quite as well with, you have Harden and then some, Harris and maybe even some of the wings. Robert Williams over the 7.5 for me. Erik, we have been playing with thrivefantasy.com. It is a daily fantasy website. And one thing that we really enjoy about this, what's unique about it, it gives you an opportunity to play props. and not only wager on props, but parlay props together. And you can actually do this if you are in the state of California, the state or Texas, places where you can't wager legally. So that's a perk because it's considered contest and daily fantasy. It's not necessarily gambling. And the second aspect, Erik, we get better value wherever you are. If you were playing these exact same prop parlays in a different site, at a different place, at a different sports book, you would not be getting paid back as well as 3.2 times your entry for your two prop parlay. If we can get a little bit extra juice, we got to take it.
Yep. Anytime you can get a better price, that's what you want to do. That's why all of us have different sports books, and we look to play where we can find the best price.
So for me, Erik, I'm going to punch it in right now. I have a 2 prop parlay that I'm firing away on today, and that one is with a couple the one that I just spoke about with Robert Williams, but his rebound prop I think might even be a little safer than the points prop, to be honest, because when he's in there, you sort of know he's going to get close to double-digit rebounds because that's really what his job is, just to clean up the glass. So I'm going Robert Williams, and I'm going PJ Tucker with the 0.5 steals. Like he's actually one of the guys that I trust in a game 7. Do you know what his points total is for today? His over-under? 3.5. PJ Tucker. Because he just doesn't score, but it's not on Thrive if you wanted to
get so many open looks. I mean, like if I was going to play something, it would be a PJ Tucker like adjusted 3 over, just because he's not going to be afraid to shoot. He's going to get a ton of open looks.
And I just went with the half a steal here. He's not afraid to mix it up down low. Like if there's anybody in this game for Philly that's not afraid of the moment, that I think is going to stick their nose in and fight for the rebounds and not be anxious or tight, it's Tucker. Could we see Embiid and Harden and Maxey? Like, I actually really like Maxey because he's so. If you've ever heard his interviews right after he comes, or like his halftime interviews, he's so brutally honest that like I love it. It's almost like refreshing. He's like a little kid. He's like, man, I don't know what the heck was going on. I just couldn't shoot the ball. And like, he'll just tell you exactly what he's feeling, like just his emotions. And I really like it for Maxey. And sometimes you can see D'Angelo's a little bit like this. When Maxey starts struggling out there, he gets really tight. He gets nervous. You could tell like it starts getting in his head. Then on the flip side, when Maxey's playing well, it's like he loves the moment. But it's very much on how he's playing. D'Angelo is almost the exact same way. You watch D'Angelo, he'll take a shot and then he'll know it's a bad shot and he'll like do a little jump. Like he'll do a little something where he shows that he's mad at himself. And then you see like the next 2 or 3 possessions, he's a little tentative, he's a little anxious. Totally opposite. He makes 1 or 2, he just lets it rip. So Maxey, I think, is one of the key guys for them today out there because I love him, but sometimes you could see it in his face that the moment gets a little big for him. Cool opportunity, Erik, anytime we get a game 7. Now, I want to show all of the folks out there who are playing along one other.
Real quick.
Go ahead. Yeah. Oh, I didn't even get you. I cut you right off. What are your Thrive plays there?
I actually did PJ Tucker under the half steals. He had 3 last game. He's averaging 1 per game in the series. I just think they're going to use him to double a little bit more. He's going to be a little bit more aggressive, like you said. And my other one is I went Jaylen Brown under the 33.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Look, he's really got to get to 26 points to get this. He hasn't got to 26 points for a couple games.
He's been right in that 24 range, right? He's been about 23, 24.
And, Tatum, the ball's really sticking in Tatum's hand. The ball isn't moving, with right now with the Celtics. So with that being said, I don't have to worry about him facilitating. And, with Robert Williams and Horford and Tatum, his potential rebounds per game went down. So I did the Brown under the 33.5 points, rebounds, assist.
Couple opportunities for you to get involved at Thrive Fantasy today. Erik, I want to pull up a contest that they have at Santa Anita. It's totally free to enter. It's something that you and I have been getting involved in over the last year or so. It's called the Pick'em Prop Contest. And reason why I'm bringing it up, because I think a lot of people who are watching this show who bet on basketball or who bet on sports, they'll really enjoy this. One of the main reasons why you'll enjoy it, Erik, it's free. It's totally free to enter. It doesn't cost you anything. All you have to do is sign up for an account. And when you do, you click on cards. And all you have to do is just fill out the questions for Sunday. The website, pick'em.santanita.com. It's 12 props to enter. Don't forget about your tiebreaker. And what's great about this, it's a combination of baseball, basketball, hockey, and then the horse races at Santa Anita for Sunday or whichever day. You look at this prop contest, for example, combine hits and walks in the Padres-Dodger game. Let's say you think there are 14. You submit it, and then it gives you a little update that your tiebreaker answer has been submitted. Santa Anita, head-to-head matchup. Which of these baseball teams are going to score the most runs? Who will have the first extra base hit for the Padres? So all sorts of different questions, Erik. This really tests your knowledge of sports and of racing, and it's a great way to build the bankroll because you can play in these every Saturday and every Sunday at Santa Anita, and they don't cost you a cent. Doesn't take away from your bankroll. If you win $500, and you actually have won one of these last year when it was on the shorter meet, they were $1,000 to the winner, and you took one of them home.
Yeah, it was great. Free to enter. You get a check in the mail. No issues, and you just gotta put in a little time, and free's free. A free chance to win $500 is always great.
You got a couple hours right now to get this filled out and to get your entry in for the Pick'em contest at Santa Anita. Erik, before I let you out of here, I want to ask you about the two teams that just got eliminated recently, because we may not get a chance to talk about them a whole lot as we start to preview the conference finals when we talk on Tuesday. First up, the Knicks. Weird year for them, right? Because didn't have the greatest start to the year. Then they had a really good stretch in the middle of the year. They played very well. It felt like they overachieved. But then it all comes down to like expectations and perception. If we would have said the Knicks are going to lose in the second round of the playoffs, a couple months ago, I think a lot of Knicks fans would have taken that. They would have signed up for that, absolutely. But the way you end up losing to a Miami team that was a little bit undermanned, Julius didn't play great down the stretch. I think Tibbs got outcoached a little bit. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth moving forward. It doesn't quite feel like as good as we felt about the Knicks, a month ago.
Game was right there. I mean, they were down by 2. It wasn't the best pass in the world that Brunson was trying to do. He
didn't want to. He was worried about Hart. They were talking about it. Hart was wide open out there, and I think it was one of those things where people were saying he didn't want to. He didn't trust Hart, like he didn't want to give it to Hart. I almost think he didn't want to put his buddy in that situation when Hart had been struggling. I almost think that Brunson was thinking about it like that way. Like he looked at him and was like, man, he's been struggling. I don't want to put him in that spot. And he tried to make a play that he probably should have just made the open pass, right? Yeah.
But Brunson played great. As long as he's there. What a
stud, man. Those last 2 games were so awesome from him.
They're going to have a chance to do some stuff. Randall, look.
Did you hear Spoelstra after the game? I forgot to tell you. He reminded me of you in the post-game press conference. He's such a coach. He's like a football coach. He doesn't know anything else that's going on in the world except for what's happening with the Miami Heat. Like he has no idea like anything. And so he was up on the podium and he was talking about Brunson. He was like, man, what a stud that guy is. He was like, he reminds me of a lot of our players and guys that we'd like on our team. And he said, God, that's an all NBA player. And he's like, wait, someone said all NBA teams came out. And he's like, what? They did? Oh, did we have anybody on them? Like, he just has no clue what's going on at all. It reminded me of you. Yeah.
I think, I don't know. I mean, like, I think this is Randall's ceiling as a player.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think like they did give him his money. Are they going to be able to move him? I think the worst thing they could do would be to get a player like a Cat. I don't think getting Cat would be necessarily a good move. You know, I would try it like a couple players was like maybe get a Bridges, make a run at him. Doubt Brooklyn's gonna be willing to go after him. Got to call Phoenix about Ayton, maybe, but I don't know if Ayton would take to Tibbs because Tibbs kind of has that tough love personality.
Yeah, the phone calls they'll probably make you.
I like Barrett. I think they should keep Barrett. I think Barrett's young. I think you got something there with Barrett. I like Grimes. I know like the rumor is they're going to try to go after one of the Chicago guys, but I don't know if I'd really want DeRozan or Levine there. To me, that doesn't make too much sense, but yeah, you got to look to move Randall.
And what's nice about where they are is they do feel like they're back to the point of relevancy. And I bet you there's a lot of stars around the league right now. If they're a little bit frustrated or if they get frustrated soon, they wouldn't mind going and playing with Jalen Brunson. Right? I think he's the type of guy a lot of people want to play with because you saw what he can do when he has to, but I don't even think Jalen Brunson really wants to be that guy that often, right? He likes being a regular point guard, setting everybody up, scoring when he has to. He's not a 35 point a game guy, you know, like naturally. So if you were to bring in, I mean, again, I don't know what the fits would be like, but I think a lot of other superstars that are disgruntled would probably like playing right next to Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, like a Pascal Siakam, someone like that. I mean,
sure.
Like, I'm sure the Raptors will be looking to move some players, maybe even OG Anunoby. You know, get players like that. Make a run at a Beal, maybe get a Beal Brunson backcourt. But again, I don't know. Like, it's really interesting to see like how this is all going to shape up. Obviously, like the Grizzlies did suspend Morant this morning.
Okay, I was just going to ask you about that.
After another video had
a gun
surfaced. It's like, Jesus, dude. It's like, come on, man. Just
whether
like,
it's
literally just got suspended.
Literally just
got suspended.
You have to at least when you're in the situation that Jaw's in, and I know people will, like, you got to at least pretend, right? You're getting all that money. You got to at least play the part. Even if you're not that way really, and you do have guns and wave them around and stuff, you've got to at least pretend like you don't for your job. Erik, and I don't know why this becomes like a thing for people. You have jobs. Are you allowed to do and say whatever you want at your job without repercussion? Because I'm sure not.
Like, no, you got to have some sort of, I don't know who the PR team is or what's going on there, but they need to have a serious sit down with him, because the reality of the situation is this: he's going to be suspended. God only knows what's going to happen with him long term with the Grizzlies. Nike's probably going to suspend his contract, terminate it for, I'm sure there's some wording in it. So he's costing himself and, like, you know, his kids and you know, money. And he seriously is going down a dark path that he needs to get out of, because we don't want to see anything happen to him. I mean, that's the main thing. We need to see him where he doesn't put himself in a bad situation and something happens to himself.
Erik, so that's the Knicks. That's the Memphis Grizz. Let's talk about the defending champs, the Warriors. Is this it for that dynasty? Do you think they run it back? Do they have to make any changes? I will say, they can't just run this team back, because there's a reason why they didn't have a better year overall. There's a reason why they were barely out of the play-in. Again, you were sort of saying this about Milwaukee. I think you were saying this about, like, you've said this about a few different series. We kind of were waiting for Golden State to always be the old Golden State, right? And this year's team just really wasn't that. They couldn't flip the switch as much as they wanted to. They defensively didn't have the same sort of intensity, and size-wise, they didn't have the same sort of options. So, you look at who they were this year, and they probably had like the worst matchup against the Lakers with a guy like Anthony Davis, who they really couldn't do a whole lot with. That was one of the worst matchups for them. So very curious, where do they go moving forward? Clay's a little bit older. Steph's a little older. Draymond's older. Poole, you're locked up with him, and that looks like a terrible contract. You got a ton of money tied into these guys. What's your move?
Well, I don't know. Like, I'll be honest, I don't know. Like,
right?
The one thing that's kind of like looking at their roster right now is they have a lot of young guys. Kuminga, Moody, Poole. They had Wiseman. They moved Wiseman off.
DiVincenzo had a great game.
Like they needed those veteran guys to fit in with Nurse instead of like Kuminga being upset, Poole being upset. Those guys like Iggy when he first came over.
Where was Iguodala? Right? It labeled right.
Like that will like understand the league. Yeah, and are fine with doing what is ever required for them. Obviously, you're going to have to look to move Poole. What you can get for Poole, I really don't know. Maybe now this is just off the top of my head. Like I feel you at least need to call Phoenix and just be like, hey, Poole for Ayton straight up. Or maybe like throwing some picks, some other pieces,
I agree with you. Absolutely.
But if Ayton had that big of an issue and completely turned it off when he got hard coaching from Williams and Chris Paul, is that going to happen with Draymond? Because Draymond is that alpha personality like that. Is he going to be able to do that? So I mean, that's something you're going to have to internalize.
And I'll play the other side of that card. Sometimes that's good, right? We don't know. Every person's is individually different. Like we talk about it with Joel Embiid. I would love someone like Draymond to be around an Embiid because I think that would help Embiid. In how I've heard about him, like I don't think Embiid doesn't want to work or isn't tough. I get a different feel about Poole. Like even just watching him the other day, it was like he's out there on the court playing defense in Game 6. I don't think I've ever seen a person try to defend LeBron in a stupider way than he did. That one play where he's right up in LeBron's face. It would have been like a deep jumper, like a long 2. He's right up in LeBron's face, and all LeBron has to do is just like take one step and blow by him, and Poole just trips him blatantly. It was like, what were you trying to do there? I don't even.
It's mind-boggling what Poole's out there doing. I mean, let's just call the spade a spade. None of us have any idea what he is doing, what his thought process is, or anything.
And I got to give you credit, my friend, because you called this one before he was even playing bad. Like you saw, like he would still be scoring a lot, but you would point out that his plus minuses aren't that good. He has to score a lot. He basically has to be Isaiah Thomas, like a little Isaiah Thomas out there. And that was the problem with Isaiah Thomas recently because his size, right? Once he got a little bit older and he didn't have the same sort of burst. Like if Poole is not fantastic offensively out there, scoring 15 points every game he's out there and hitting 40% of his threes, like he's unplayable.
Yeah, and that's basically what he was like, and he is nothing on defense. I know, like, you have certain people saying, like, well, he should be the guy. They need to get, like, obviously, can anyone in their right mind just see a championship team winning it with Jordan Poole being their point guard? I can't.
No.
It's going to be interesting. Like, to me, he's like a LaMelo Ball. He can do some flashy stuff. Maybe he'll get your 20, but you're never going to have a winning franchise. With
you need another leader. You need someone else there to be the leader. And
Dallas makes the most sense to me. I would try Dallas. And then not Dallas. I would try Phoenix, excuse me. I would try Phoenix and do it. But then again, is Poole going to work with KD and Booker? Is he going to be able to be that back seat?
Could we see something like God, you know where he could be a really good fit? Maybe. Could we see something like Cleveland, and then them try to get Jared Allen back to Golden State? He might be a good fit in Golden State, right? As a big who doesn't care about shooting, doesn't need a whole lot, kind of play like a better version of Looney, maybe, or just rebound, defend. And then you get Poole to sort of be the guy to run the second unit. Remember how bad Cleveland is after Mitchell and Garland. You have this other guy, Poole, as your sixth man to light it up. You have Mobley out there. Defensively, you're probably pretty bad like late in the game, but you got a Mobley big. You've got Poole, Garland, Mitchell. Could you get another wing out there? I don't know, like we're spitballing, but a type of team that needs extra scoring firepower has like a big to maybe get rid of, because I think Golden State wants some sort of a big back, right? I don't know why. Like you and I are kind of both sensing that. I feel like they just need a little bit more size.
Yeah. Magic with Wendell Carter Jr.
Yeah, something like Orlando. Yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with him. And then you kind of have to decide, look, there was times Clay looked old, but look, he's still average. Like you look at him for the whole playoffs. This is the third most points he averaged in the playoffs.
Well, dude, in the first 3 games in the series, what did he have? 6, 8, and 5 threes. So even when he's not, he's still made a ton of threes early here. And in the gravity, right? You got to defend him. You have to have one guy chasing Clay around all over. It's not as if he's like a normal 3-point shooter who's just parked out in the corner. He's running around and making you defend him.
So, like, do you run it back one more time, or do you have that talk with Clay and just be like, dude, look, man, we want you to come off the bench, but then who do you pair with Steph? Yeah, there's a lot of different and movable parts. I think they can get a lot for Kuminga. If they elect to move him, he's only 20. He's showing a lot of flashes. Obviously, there's got to be something there for him not to get a sniff. I know there was that whole thing he didn't try for a rebound. There's got to be something there where that is going on internally. Interesting thing. And then, we talked about it. If the Suns ended up losing to the Nuggets, we talked about how they were going to make some coaching changes.
And you called that, man. They fired him already.
Yeah, Monty Williams was let go. And that's what I thought was going to happen. But as soon as we saw Matt sitting next to Isaiah Thomas and Isaiah Thomas right next to the bench, you knew this was going to be something. And we've seen it historically, and maybe Matt will be the exception to the rule. These owners come in and they start changing stuff, getting people in there that they think that would know what's going on. And Isaiah was great as a player for the Pistons. Front office wise, Isaiah hasn't been that good.
No.
So, it's going to be interesting what they decide to do. I know there's like Nurse, Coach Bud, the guy from the Kings bench. It's going to be interesting to see like what direction they look to go. And that's another team. Like, look, you got to move CP3. I doubt CP3 comes back. But who's going to want to take that much money? You got Ayton. Ayton needs to get out of house. Ayton, since he's so young, 18 and 10 last game, you can probably get some good assets back. I felt they had a really good team. But now, like, you're starting to move stuff. You brought in KD, but this isn't the KD from a couple years ago. This is a KD who has some injury history, doesn't have the lift in his jumper. Now you're pairing him with Booker, and as much as everyone wants to anoint Booker this, Booker that, Booker this, he really hasn't beaten anyone in the playoff series that was 100% healthy.
I know.
You know, they
had some bad exits, like the bad exits are the things that bother me. They lost by 30 points now the last 2 years when they've gotten beat in elimination games. Like when the other team has that big of a punch and you're so far off of punching back, like you're not even close. That's a little scary.
Yeah, it's going to be, they got boat raced. And I mean, like, look, I'm willing to, like, they were in a tough situation because they literally had nobody. They literally had nobody. But I mean, that game last year against Boston, jeez.
Against last year was against the Mavs.
The Mavericks. That was bad. That was really, really bad. Obviously, like I said, they want to move Paul. But like I know people are saying Fred VanVleet, but how are you going to be able to work that out math-wise? Because it would have to be a sign and trade with them. Are they going to want to take Chris Paul back? All your young assets and your draft picks are tied up with other teams now. So I just don't know. I just don't know what you're going to do. I guess we're going to see how good the GM is of the Suns, Jones. So I don't know. It should be interesting.
A lot of work to be done there. Erik,
let's say you're Nick Nurse. Let's say you're Nurse or Vogel. Because those two, unless there's someone I'm spacing on, I'm not gonna include Monty. I'm not gonna include Bud. Let's say you're Vogel or Nurse. They're the coaches who are out there who are head coaches with championship rings. And you have your choice between going to the Phoenix Suns or the Milwaukee Bucks.
Oh my gosh, you go to the Bucks. It's not even like Nurse. If I'm Nurse, I go straight to the Bucks. I want to go there. Absolutely. I mean, if they offered it to Vogel, for sure, whoever it is, right? Situation.
The thing with the Bucks is the Bucks have some stuff going on. Like there's rumors that Holiday is going to hang it up, that Holiday is going to retire. Middleton's going to opt out, and then Middleton's going to look for the bag because this is going to be his last contract. And the rumor is Memphis is going to really make a heavy push for him and give him all the money they can, which would be a great fit. Lopez is a free agent. That means you have basically Giannis and Bobby Portis right now. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I don't know. It's going to be a real interesting offseason to see how everything, shapes up. And then Cleveland's got to make some moves too, because obviously they insanely underperform. It's going to be an interesting offseason regardless.
Erik, good luck in Game 7. You and I will be back on Tuesday to preview Game 1 of the Lakers and the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals. How about that for the Lakers? I was screaming the other night, slam it, big man, throw it down, AD. And it was a good way to end. It was nice. One of those games as a fan where weren't that many anxious moments. Golden State sort of cut it at a few different points to like manageable, but Lakers were pretty much in control throughout that game. And that's sort of how you want to close out game to be when you are a fan. So 4 teams will be left as of today, and we'll find out who will be making it in the Eastern Conference Finals. Will it be Celtics? Will it be 76ers? We'll know in just a few hours. Good luck, buddy. Good luck to all of you out there. We'll see you again on Tuesday right here. Fast Break Bets.